Welcome to
90.
the Wise Take DFS Podcast. I'm your host, CK013. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013. And yes, it's the four-man NFL DFS Podcast. Joined once again by Wise Take OG, my boy, Paulie D. Find him on Twitter at Paulie with 8 Ds. Paulie, how you doing, bro?
Good, man. So my NBA team's looking good. I showed you guys I have a lot of this Golden State Toronto game, so it's too early to really tell. But if that game goes off, I'm going to be in a good spot, so I'm pumped.
There we go. I like to hear it. Also joined by Cam G333 making his return to the DFS Podcast. Cam, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. Looking to redeem myself this week in NFL, but we'll get after it. I'm watching the Lakers-Washington game, too. I don't really know what's going on with this. Are Lakers wearing powder blue jerseys right now?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Powder blue. They wear those sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
The UCLA look,
True.
Of course,
I'm doing well, though.
You guys can find Cam on Twitter at Cam with a K, GDFS. Last but not least, we're joined by everybody's favorite. We're joined by Slim Gady. You can find him on Twitter at RealSlimGady. Gady, how we doing, my man?
Good, man. I'm kind of locked in on this World Series, looking to see Patio Joe somewhere.
Shout Patio Joe.
I know he's freaking out. I'm happy for him. Haven't seen him yet, but in terms of football stuff, I'm looking. Like, I haven't had 2 really good weeks in a row yet, so I had a really good week this week. So we're trying to make it back to back.
Here we go.
Yeah,
back.
Back to back. I like that. I like that call.
Those things back to back are good, right? Like,
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, because eventually you get to call it a streak, and that's like when that's exciting. Like you know what I'm saying? If you're like, I'm on a winning streak, it's like it's exciting to say that. But it starts with the back to back, Gady. So we got to do it this week, bro.
Yep.
So with NBA and everything, it's pretty clear that like the NFL has gotten quiet. Like the demand for it has gone down a little bit. So I want to get everybody back into it. So we're going to go position by position today instead of going with the 4-game format. We're just going to go position by position. It's early in the week. Listen, guys, it's early in the week. We still are waiting on a couple things of information. Anything can happen. There's a lot of time left between now and that kickoff. But like early in the week, based off the research you've done, I want to know some of the guys that were on. Just a couple. We don't have to go through everybody, but just a couple guys that stand out. I want to see what the consensus is, so to speak. Before we do that, Paulie, we have this little thing we're going to start doing where Paulie gives us part of the weather report and Vegas report, and we're calling it the Paulie report. What you got here for us, Paulie?
Yeah, I really am one of the people who focuses a lot on weather, and like I hadn't looked at it, and I made like my list, of like top guys at the spots for the show, and then like I looked at the weather like about an hour ago, and I was like, oh, wow, and everything changed. So. A lot of important spots. The London game played in Wembley has like a 56% chance of rain throughout the entire game and 10 to 12 mile per hour winds. That's a sloppy field as it is. It's where they play a ton of soccer games. So like if it gets rain throughout the weekend, it could be really ugly there in that Minnesota-Cleveland game. The San Francisco at Philadelphia Eagles game has a 98% chance of rain throughout the entirety of the game with thunderstorms and 9% wind. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers game, 65 degrees for Tampa. That's pretty cool this time of year. And 15 to 18 mile per hour winds. Not that serious, but, could affect the kicking game and maybe the deep passing game, depending which way the wind is blowing. Falcons Jets, another massive rainstorm, 96, 97% throughout the entire game, and 17 to 20 mile per hour winds. And those winds can definitely impact the game in New York Giants Stadium. What other? The Cowboys at Redskins. So I guess there's a storm in the East Coast. A little bit less percentage, 62 through 75% chance of thunderstorms, and then milder just rain towards the later part of the game, and 10 to 12 mile per hour winds. So a handful of games where we could have a lot of rain, a lot of sloppy fields. That definitely changes things significantly.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
Definitely.
on to Vegas. I'm not going to go through everything, but some of the early movement that we've seen is the Bengals. They've popped 2 points. They opened as 8.5 point favorites. They're out to 10.5 point favorites. And the Cowboys opened at a pick'em, and they're out to 2 point favorites. And then on the over/under front, we have that Seattle-Houston game rising in a hurry. Open at 43, it's up to 46. In the over/under land, like 41, 44, and then 47 are some key numbers, and it's already blown through that 44, and it's approaching that 47 spot. If it goes through there, I think it's going to be a game that I really focus on for offense. That Tampa Bay at Carolina. Carolina at Tampa Bay game has jumped up 2 points. Open at 44. It's at 46 currently. That Monday Night Chiefs Denver game has gone up. It opened at 41.5. It's at 43. And then on the downside, we've had just that Eagles San Fran game, one of the ones with a ton of weather, opened at 47.5, and now it's down to 46. So that's crossing down through a key number. So that's probably weather related. And those are the only significant ones right now. We'll go back to this on Saturday and see how things have changed.
Yeah, definitely. So just a quick recap on last week. Obviously, Zeke had monster performance. He was one of the guys that you needed. And Prescott, I think, I'm pretty sure he was the guy he was the leader, right? The guy that scored the most for quarterbacks. I think he had like a rushing touchdown and 3 passing touchdowns, something like that. Huge game for Dallas. So some of the things we're seeing, I think at this point in the season, the DVOA starts to expose these things. You can kind of rely on the DVOA stats a little bit more at this point, and even the pace stats is important to double check and see which teams are moving up or down in pace after injuries and schematic changes, things like that. But let's go ahead and talk about the quarterbacks that we like. Paulie D, we're going to start with you. Who are just a couple guys that stand out to you this early in the week?
So my top two are Russell Wilson. That Houston game is one that I liked, and now it's rising fast, as we just mentioned, with the over-unders. And, I liked what Russ did against the Giants defense, which is actually come around and has been playing a lot better lately. And, early on they had slowed him down, but, he came through. And, I think Seattle, a team that doesn't run well against Houston, a team that does stop the run pretty decent. Watson could put up some points, like they may be forced to score, playing from behind, playing from in front. I just see this as a higher scoring game. So, at Russ's price with his running possibility, I like the potential for him to have another big game, 300 plus and 3 touchdowns. And then Jameis Winston. You look at this dude, he throws for 300 often, and he has 40 pass attempts like almost every game. There was one game he got hurt in the middle, but outside of that one game, the pass attempts are there, the yardage is there. He's got talented receivers. He doesn't have a great run game. The Carolina Panthers are good against the run. Carolina's actually decent against the pass too, but I think some of that is who they've played and game script. I don't think that they're actually that great at defending the pass. So I want to do some Tampa Bay triple stacks, get Jameis, Evans, and Deshaun Jackson, and hope that this game kind of blows up. Last year, Atlanta versus Carolina, Julio Jones had his big 300-yard game. It's pretty much the same secondary. I like to see Mike Evans do the same here, and then Deshaun Jackson catch a bomb at a cheaper price and just bring that whole triple stack together. So those are my top two.
Okay, I got you. Cam, what about you? What are some of the quarterbacks that stand out?
Yeah, so my number one so far when I was just going through it, definitely Carson Wentz for me. He's 7.9 on FanDuel. It's kind of going to be a popular play, but I don't really care about that. I think it's too good of a spot. He's going up against San Fran, who's just been atrocious against the pass this year. They just gave up 30 points to Dak last week. in addition to 40 against Zeke. So they've just been getting shredded on the defense. Philly's been a top 3 passing team all year, and I just think they're in a really good spot. I don't really care what ownership Wentz is going to be at. I'll definitely have some shares of him for sure this weekend. I just think it's too good of a spot, and he has options on FanDuel that are pretty inexpensive that you can pair him with, which I kind of like that, which is going to allow me to pay up at different positions. We'll get to that, but I also like that aspect of Wentz. And then my other guy, I think I like Russell, but I'll touch on someone else because Paulie just talked about Russell. I kind of like Cam Newton a little bit this week. I was thinking about him last week, but then with the weather against the Bears in Chicago, definitely went off of him because I didn't want to have anything to do with that. I know he's kind of turnover prone and everything, but that worked out well with that fade. But I think going back this week against Tampa, they've given up like the 30 most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. I like that Cam can always utilize his legs. He's going to be playing warmer climate relative to the other parts of the league. Now that we're getting into late October, early November-ish, it's going to start cooling down. So Tampa's a decent spot to play here, as long as the weather's not weird. And I just like the fact that he can utilize his legs a little bit. He's been rushing a lot more. Last 2 games, 11 rush attempts and 9 rush attempts for 71 and 50. So that's huge for a quarterback. And as long as he can get it going in the pass game and limit those turnovers, I'm willing to take a shot against a pretty bad pass defense here.
Okay, I got you, man. I think that's a great point with Cam. Could be looking at a bounce back spot. Real quick, just to note, the nation was all over the Chicago Bears defense. Hootie hoo. And anyway, just wanted a quick shameless plug. Shameless plug. Gady, tell me your thoughts here, quarterback. Who are some of the guys that stand out to you?
Yeah, so I'm going to have to qualify everything I say with I didn't have the Paulie report prior to my report. So, yeah, I didn't look at the weather or anything. So I'm with Cam, though, pre-weather, pre-Paulie report that Wentz is definitely the top guy for cash games. I mean, it's pretty obvious. The Niners are terrible. They're really bad against the run, but Philly doesn't run the ball that much anyways. So it could even be a better spot for Wentz than it was last week. I don't know. Their run game looked pretty bad. I mean, Blunt didn't look like he could do anything out there. So, if they don't have a bunch of rain, they're just going to light this thing up. Another guy that I liked, I kind of went about this like the first guy is more of a cash play. Second guy I like more for tournaments. This falls under the Paulie report also. I did kind of like McCown for the Jets as somebody that I don't think anybody's going to be on. Atlanta's terrible, man. Like, their defense is really bad. They give up a ton of fantasy points to quarterbacks. I think McCown's coming in at 7.3 on FanDuel, so he's towards the bottom. Again, I don't think anybody's going to be on him, but they should put up points in this game. And even though I think we all can say that we hate Atlanta, they've got to be able to put some kind of points on the board. I think this game, if it's not raining, could get pretty high up there. The Jets have actually been pretty good offensively. And McCown, what do you have, 3 or 4 touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown this week? Yeah. I mean, he's had 2 straight games over 20 points. So for a tournament play, I like him there. A couple other guys I do like, non-weather related. I do like Tyrod, and I hate to say it, but I do like Andy Dalton this week. Mm-hmm. I'm going to tell you right now, I like him.
Red Rocket.
I'm not playing him, but I like him. Yeah, get that Red Rocket in there. He's in a great spot.
No, it's the Red Rifle. He's the Red Rifle.
Now, because they realized what the Red Rocket means. And then they switched it to the Red Rifle. ESPN called him the Red Rocket and everything. And then I guess somebody realized, like, dude, you don't say that on TV. Like, and they switched it to the Red Rifle all of a sudden. But,
didn't he get pissed about that, too?
I don't know.
I don't think he liked either one of them.
I don't blame him, man.
Don't have red hair, bro.
You know, I think that's interesting that you guys both had Wentz. I was looking at him before the weather. With the weather, like, you know, I think the Eagles will just go to that run game. They have a couple guys that they can distribute the carries, kind of like a shifty guy and then a strong guy, whatever they used to call that with the Giants. You know, if you look at their game logs, like they have gone pass heavy in certain spots, and then in other spots they've really gone and given their backs like 30, 40 carries. So, you know, I could see them getting a lead and then just like running out the clock and protecting the ball instead of risking turnovers. But Wentz has definitely impressed me this year. Like, he's legit. Guys who didn't draft him, they missed, and like he's legit. He's going to be a long-time pro in this league, and you know, it's hard being a Giants fan looking at that Eagles team and all the young, good talent that they have. It's a little frustrating.
Yeah, I could definitely imagine that. I think I'm more on Paulie's side with Wentz, just because he's so expensive on both sides. Like he's one of the higher quarterbacks, and he's earned it. Don't get me wrong, but I can really see, especially with the weather, I can see this just becoming a game where they just feed Blunt, and like I think if you're playing, well, you can still play him, but I think you're hoping that all those touchdowns that he does in the first half, you better hope that Wentz is on every one of them. Because if it happens to sneak, if they're up by 3 or 4 touchdowns at half already, and Blunt has one of those touchdowns and not Wentz, then I think Wentz is pretty much capped on touchdowns for the rest of the game. So, he's in play. He's got upside.
The Eagles have been throwing like almost every time in the red zone. They don't give the balls to the running backs at all in the red zone. Like LeGarrette Blount last year,
they don't get in the red zone. It's always like a 60-yard pass.
But like if they do, like, they don't give it to the running backs. Like this, it should usually be a smash spot for like LeGarrette Blount, but they don't give him the ball really there.
Yeah, but I think that like the weather is going to have a lot to take into consideration with this. Like if it's a nasty rainy day, they're not going to want to risk Wentz getting hurt or having some kind of crappy game for no reason against a crappy team. You know what I mean? When they're already 5. What's their record? They like have a really good record.
6-1.
6-1. So I you're right, Cam. It's true that like you want to go off the tendencies, and they don't have a tendency. Like they're definitely a pass dominant team. It's just like we're gonna need San Francisco to, because like another scenario is we could see some turnovers from the Eagles defense. The Eagles defense could put up a couple touchdowns, and then and even that same scenario, like they don't need Wentz to do as much, but. Again, because of his upside and what he's been doing, like this could be like we've seen guys that like were slated for blowouts and they got all 4 touchdowns in the first half. Like Wentz did it last week; he got like 4 touchdowns in the first half and didn't do anything in the second half. But it didn't matter because he already got his 4 touchdowns. So you know, I don't hate the pick at all. It's just maybe not as safe as maybe it looks on paper, but I don't hate it, man. It's got upside for sure. I think on Andy Dalton, Gady, I think on DraftKings and cash games, there's a strong case to be made for Andy Dalton against the Colts. He's 5'7" on DraftKings, which is there's not a lot of cheap guys that you really want to look at. I mean, McCown is 5'2", but I don't, he's not a guy that you typically want to play in cash. Although if you look at his game logs, he's been consistent.
What's Tyrod on DraftKings?
I'm pretty sure
$5K last week.
He's 5'9".
5'9" now.
Yeah. So Dalton against the Colts, it's just kind of like it's reminiscent of the game he had against Cleveland, I think it was, where like he hooked up with AJ Green. AJ Green had a big day. Dalton was okay, but like it was like a cash play kind of thing. And I think we're looking at the same thing. Like we know he's not a guy with mega upside, Andy Dalton, not this year anyway. But he does have some weapons. So I think to your point on DraftKings, on FanDuel, I think he's too expensive. But on DraftKings, I think that there's a case to be made. The other guy that I wanted to ask you guys about for myself, I'm looking at Phillip Rivers, man. I know it's a 1 o'clock game all the way across the country. It worries me a little bit, but I honestly don't think that the Patriots defense did well against Atlanta. I think Atlanta's offense is all over the place. I think the coordinator switch is just screwing them up completely. So I'm not quite ready to say, oh, maybe the Patriots got it together. And Rivers is, again, you can play him with the running back, Melvin Gordon, and just like, you know what I'm saying? Like they throw to him all the time in the red zone. So we know he's going to throw a ton. So, Paulie, you first. I want to know your thoughts on Rivers.
Yeah, I'm cool with Rivers. He's probably in my top 5. I like Keenan Allen a lot, so I think Rivers is going to do well. I think they're going to be trailing, forced to pass a lot. Rivers is a veteran against a bad defense. Like, it's a good spot for Rivers, absolutely.
Cam, what are your thoughts on Rivers?
Yeah, I like the play a lot. I think there's a lot of potential. I was actually going to talk about someone in the next position against New England that I like, and it goes along with Rivers. So
okay. Spoiler alert. He didn't give nothing away just yet, but I think
Ethel, or what's his name? Eskel?
He's talking about the backup running back.
No way.
What the hell is going on?
Eckler. Adam Eckler.
Adam
Got 7 carries last week. That's what you're talking about, right?
No.
I wish.
Definitely not.
4 targets and a touchdown. Min price.
He's in NBA mode looking for all those the min price gems.
Well, it depends. I think Melvin Gordon was limited at practice, so I'm sure he's gonna play. But if he's like super limited, then play. I guess yeah. Gady, he's gonna play. He was all serious. Gady, real quick, thoughts on Rivers?
Yeah, I like him, man. I thought he'd be hot. He'd be more expensive, dude. He's 7.5 on FanDuel.
Well, he hasn't really had the upside. Like he throws a ton. He's been like kind of like Carson Palmer. Like he's been kind of like just throwing a ton and not getting a lot done.
Like last week though, look at Matt Ryan's been shit all year.
Yeah,
and then priced him up over 8K on FanDuel just because he was playing the Patriots. So I figured they'd do the same thing with Rivers. So
that's a good point.
I think it's a good play.
That's a good point. All right, Paulie, do you want to start us off with some of the running backs?
Yeah. Serge Ibaka, 3 blocks in the first quarter. Yes. What'd you say? Running backs. Yeah. Running backs. Zeke. Big run. Big weather concerns there. Zeke knows where he's going. The defense doesn't. They're just gonna feed this animal after what he did last week, and in the rain. I don't see guys being able to tackle him. Give me more Zeke. And then I want some Mixon. I think Cincinnati, can handle Indianapolis pretty handily. You might get some fourth quarter mop-up time carries from Dixon where he finally breaks one or just gets involved in the pass game early. But I like Mixon at his price at running back as my second guy.
Okay, I like it. Cam, running back.
Yeah, so my kind of upper price guy would be Melvin Gordon if we're talking like GPP-wise. I know he injured his foot last week, so it's all depending on what we hear about that going throughout the week. But I just think it's a good spot for him. We know that he's a guy who, to get that upside, he needs his receiving. And I think in this game, there's a lot of opportunity for him to get that receiving against New England. We could see the game script going. New England gets up. San Diego has to pass a lot. And I think Melvin could get his boost and upside in that receiving game, trying to come back. He doesn't really get all that much from his rushing, and it's kind of like a Todd Gurley thing. We want him to get that receiving, so I think he's in a really good spot to get receiving as long as he can stay healthy throughout the week and get the start. And then going down, I agree with Paulie. I really liked Joe Mixon just when I was going through this. He's 5.9K. On FanDuel, and he's kind of taken that lead role over there for the most part. I'll have to look into it why he didn't get all that many carries last week, but the last like 3 or 4 weeks he's been the dominant back in that backfield, and Indy doesn't grade out well for me like against running backs at all, so I'm definitely on Joe Mixon.
Okay, I like it. Gady, what are your thoughts on running back?
Yeah, I like Zeke a lot. I wasn't planning on talking about him. I just want to tell Paulie, I agree with you there, especially with the weather concerns, man. Yeah. If it's bad weather, just lock him in and don't worry about it. I do like Melvin Gordon. He was the second guy I was going to talk about. I'm a little concerned with the injury, and I think it's a great spot here because people are going to be off him because it was a dud last week, right? Mm-hmm. Well, he was also playing Denver. He also got hurt in the game.
Denver's not great against the run, but no, man. Like, I didn't even know that there was an injury concern. Otherwise, I like Melvin Gordon, too. Like, he'd be, like, 3rd or 4th on my list.
Right. That's about where he is for me, too. I think it's a great tournament play.
He's going to be in that pass game. Like, if you like Phillip Rivers, you pair him with Gordon.
I mean, what's New England bad against? They're bad against running backs.
Everything.
They run the ball, they catch the ball, everything. So whether they're ahead, behind, tied, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. He's going to be heavily involved in the game. Nobody's going to want to play him because of last week. They're going to forget back-to-back 30-plus FanDuel points, before that. People are going to forget about it. So I like him a lot. Other guy that nobody else has mentioned that I like a lot is Shady, going against Oakland. I mean, I like a lot of guys in this.
Yeah.
I don't like playing a bunch of Bills in cash games, but they finally figured it out. Like, hey, when we get inside the 10, give Shady the damn ball. And stop giving the ball to Mike Tolbert. Are you kidding me? Stop.
I know. That's only on like the inch yard line.
Yeah,
like not from the 3, not from the 7, like the inch. And really, I like giving it to my good back and go up over the top. So yeah, I'm with you.
He hasn't had any touchdowns all year. He's the best player on the team. Give him the ball inside the 10. Stop it. But I think they figured it out. Oakland's awful against everybody that plays on the offensive side of the ball. So, and I think their offense is good enough to keep this a close game. I think it's a pretty underrated game for me. So I'm going to have a lot of exposure here, starting with Shady.
Yeah. I definitely think the Shady is certainly a great play. Zeke, obviously, he's got to be rated high pretty much everywhere as a top option. And I like the Melvin Gordon call. He's probably my favorite, but that probably wasn't too hard to figure out, seeing as how I brought up Phillip Rivers. So that was probably an easy guess. But just to go over a couple tournament options that I'm considering, it's not a great line at all. It's a terrible spread. But Jordan Howard, just from volume, it is a good matchup. New Orleans does struggle against the run. He's going to get a little boost when he's running with the fast turf. So based on volume alone, like I said, the spread indicates like a poor game script for him. It indicates maybe more of a Tyreek Cohen, but they do involve him somewhat in the pass game from time to time. And I think that the Bears defense is pretty good. I think there is a possibility that the Bears hang around this game because of their defense, and as long as it doesn't get too out of hand, they will continue to feed Jordan Howard. So this is one of the better matchups he's had in a while. So I'll mention him. And the only other guy that honestly he really appealed to me when Paulie had mentioned about the weather. So shout out to the Paulie report. Carlos Hyde, man, if it's going to be bad weather out there in San Fran and they got a young quarterback, they're going to run. They're just going to keep running, I would imagine. If the weather's bad. So
in Philly. Game's in Philly.
Right. Right. Oh, okay, the game's in Philly.
Yeah.
What's that?
Only thing about Hyde, it's kind of tough because I don't know that Shanahan really likes him that much.
Yeah, that's true. They've been giving snap carries.
Even though the other two guys they have are terrible, man. Mm-hmm. I mean, Hyde's a really good player. I'm sorry, but he is. Yeah. I just don't think Shanahan likes him. Also saw a stat on Philly. They're only giving up 42 rushing yards per game.
Oh, yeah. If it was dry conditions, no way.
Oh, yeah. No. Exactly. I wasn't even looking at Hyde until Paulie said that it was supposed to be weather. If there's weather there, then maybe Hyde for the ownership standpoint, because this doesn't look like the most appealing. All the guys you guys mentioned are even Mixon. Like those are on paper. They're so much of a better play than Hyde. But like Gady said, he does have talent. But you do make a good point, Gady. Another concern here is they're not giving him. He's not just getting all the snaps. Like they're giving the other guys run. So
I think if they get in the red zone, he's going to get the carries. But are they going to get there?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, do you want to rely on that when there's all these other running backs in good spots?
Yeah.
It's a good point.
I had McCoy and Gordon as 3 and 4, so I was kind of happy that you guys both were on those because we're on the same page. So that's
I think all of us seem to like Gordon. I know Cam, that's your favorite running back, right? Gordon.
He's up there.
He's up there.
I like
Zeke.
I like Zeke. I like Zeke a lot, and then especially that Paulie mentioned the weather. He'll probably be my number one running back. I just mentioned Gordon to kind of pivot off of something different, but Gordon will be top 3 for sure.
Yeah. Gotcha. All right. So Zeke and Gordon seem to be the consensus, and they'll probably be the chalk, but they're in the best spots. First look to me, in my opinion. So I don't hate it. Let's move it on over. Paulie, do you want to talk about some receivers for us?
Yeah. So Mike Evans, already told you I like Jameis. Told you about the Julio game against his Carolina secondary, and Jameis loves peppering Evans with targets. So I think this is a 2-touchdown, 100-yard-plus game for him. And Keenan Allen. And, I was happy you guys mentioned Cam, so that's Carolina's offense should be doing well, pushing Tampa Bay's offense. So I like that game. And then I had Keenan Allen. I think you want to do some triple stacks this weekend. I think a Rivers, Melvin Gordon, and Keenan Allen triple is definitely in play. Whether they're in front, it's going to be because they're doing well, and Allen could be a part of that, or more than likely trailing, and he can get targets all second half. So I like Keenan Allen for his price and what I think his upside is.
I like that call. Cam, wide receiver.
Yeah, love Keenan Allen this week. Like, he's probably going to be top 3 favorite receivers, if not number 1. And then another guy I just saw, I liked Russ, and then Doug Baldwin for Seattle. Russ Wilson, he's his favorite target by far. And if we all like Russell Wilson, there's nothing to not like about Doug Baldwin. He was banged up a little bit at the beginning of the year, which is why his numbers are down a little bit. But last week against the Giants, he had 12 targets, 9 receptions for 92 and a touchdown. So we see he's getting a little healthier in a game that we're kind of projecting to be a little higher scoring. So I'm definitely going to have some Doug Baldwin in my lineups. And then to go down a little bit, obviously this is all contingent on weather and everything, so we'll have to keep an eye on it. But I'm going to be pairing Wentz with an Aguilar or I'll have to look, but maybe Alshon or something like that. They're cheap wide receivers. If I can get a double or triple stack in, like Paulie always mentions, to kind of maximize your upside in a GPP. So I'll be looking into that more. But I actually kind of like Aguilar. He's one of my favorite lower priced wide receivers.
Yeah, I like that call with Aguilar. He's been getting the touchdowns, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Tournaments. Gady, wide receiver.
Man, you got to steal my thunder, Cam. Yeah, Aguilar is my number 1 guy on FanDuel at $6K. And I'm 100% with you. Obviously, with the weather is a problem, but pairing him with Wentz, at $6K, he's got 3 straight games with a touchdown. He scored in 5 of 7 games, and the Niners are awful against slot receivers. So I don't know why he's still 6K. He shouldn't be on FanDuel. But that's a lock, man. You just put him in your cash line and don't worry about it, regardless of who your quarterback is. But I love pairing him with Wentz. Another guy I like, I do like Keenan Allen, like everybody you guys are talking about. Another guy that was on my list is AJ Green. I don't give a damn about Vontae Davis. They're not stopping anybody from throwing the ball. I don't know that I love him in cash, but I definitely love him in tournaments. Pairing him obviously with Dalton, you could throw Mixon in there. I like the Bengals. I like the Bengals a lot. I hate to say that because I hate the Bengals all the time. The Red Rocket or Rifle or whatever you want to call them, but this is just too good of a spot to ignore them. So, yeah, I'm on AJ too for sure.
Yeah,
I feel like AJ is always a guy who gets overlooked every week as well.
Yeah, because people just hate Dalton so much.
Yeah, exactly. But it's he's his favorite. He's gonna get so many looks. Yeah.
Yes,
I agree.
No, I definitely like the call. One guy I'll mention, and he burned me a little bit last week, and this I usually only want him at home, but I don't mind T.Y. Hilton in the spot either on the other side of that Bengals game. Because I do have interest in AJ Green, but he's 5'6" on DraftKings. You know what I'm saying?
Really?
T.Y. Hill, 5'6" on DraftKings.
That's cheap.
I like that.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
it's if we do have interest in the Dalton and even in Mixon, all those game scripts fit for T.Y. Hilton either way on the other side. So at 5'6" on DraftKings specifically, it's a price that it's going to be tough for me to leave him out. And obviously I like T.Y. Hilton in general, so it makes him even more tough for me.
T.Y. Hilton from?
Was that
Union?
What college? He went to, was it Florida National?
Florida International, 20 miles down the road, baby.
Florida International. There you go. Yo, I loved watching him in college, man. That's the only time I ever really watched that school. Oh,
he was
dude.
Man. He's so fast.
Talent.
He's so fast. Like,
yeah.
I love that. If you are going to play AJ and the Dalton, or, you know, like you mentioned, even Mixon, like, get yourself some fucking TY at 5'6".
DK.
Wow.
Yeah, he's got 30-point upside for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, all he needs is a 5'6". He catches one big bomb, you're happy. Like, if he just gets lucky in garbage time and just catches a big bomb, you're like, okay.
And they have no other, like, receivers. Like, he's getting the he's similar to the guy in Houston. What's his name?
DeAndre Hopkins.
Hopkins. They have, like, similar, like, roles. And now Hopkins maybe with that other receiver coming up, like, you know, he may, like, reduce. But T.Y., there's nobody there. Like, you know, Moncrief hasn't done a thing. Like, it is all T.Y. So I like that. I didn't know he was that cheap. What's he on?
He's only caught 3 balls the last 2 games.
But the targets are there, though. The targets are there. That's what we're looking for.
3 balls.
The targets have been there. It's the same thing with NBA. We talk about the shots. Like, I look at shot attempts before I rule a guy out, and it's like, if the shots are there, then he's in playing GPPs, because that means that eventually those shots are going to go in. And it's the same thing with Hilton. If the targets are there, eventually he's going to start catching the balls.
And one of those 2 games was against Jacksonville. Like,
last week
that
was
doesn't
against
even
Jacksonville.
really count. Yeah, the one before that was against Tennessee.
But you know what's promising is against Jacksonville, they were forcing the ball to him. It just didn't work, but they were trying. They were trying really hard. They got sacked 10 times. Brissett got sacked 10 times in that game.
and if you look, like, you know, monster game against Cleveland, right? Monster game against San Francisco. Like, the Cincinnati pass defense is not. I don't think it's that good. Like, I don't know.
I wonder if do we have news if Pac-Man's back? He missed last week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he will be back, because he was like almost.
He was like on the fence.
Yeah, he almost played last week, but yeah, if he's out, that makes it even better.
Yeah.
But I'm not, like, Pac-Man's not like a shutdown guy to me. You know, like, I don't have to avoid the receiver just because he's on him.
If any, the only thing that sucks is his penalties. That honestly, that's a big reason Pac-Man kills me, because of pass interference calls. And so, you know, you got a big play and he'll just freaking tomahawk somebody. You don't want to get beat. And it's like, oh, like, you know. But
that don't help me when I played
yeah, man, it's like, it kills you. It's like,
oh my God.
Oh, it's funny. All right, Paul, you want to talk about some tight ends, man?
Tight ends, Hunter Henry.
Every week, baby. Every week, baby. I'm with it. I'm not knocking.
Yo, that thing's over. Like, you know, it's Henry's role now. You know, like, well, Gates, that's over with. Like, you know, they realized, you know, we went 0-4. You know, now, like, we're like winning games, and we're throwing up Hunter Henry. Like, I think we're gonna keep this going. And after that, Jimmy Graham. You know, I like the Seattle offense, and I like the way that they were, like, targeting last week. Like, he could have had a monster game last week. He dropped a touchdown, and then, like, another play, like, I think he got overthrown where he was open. Like, he could have a monster game. Then I like how they split him out on the goal line. So I like the way that they were trying to get him the ball, and I like where he is in relation to price. Like, you know, he's $2K less than Gronkowski. I think he can match him. He's cheaper than Kelsey. So I like Jimmy Graham kind of like in the mid-tier for the tight ends.
Okay, I'm with it. Cam, tight ends.
Yeah, so I agree with you, Paulie, on the Hunter Henry. Like, I don't know why FanDuel doesn't, but they keep his price kind of like 5-2, 5. Yeah, 100%. Like, too cheap.
He's Ebron and the injured Charles Clay.
Yeah, like, I don't understand that at all. So, like, he's like the obvious kind of guy down there. And then if you want to pay up a little bit, I kind of like Jordan Reed. He's finally healthy. He's by far like Kirk Cousins' favorite target. Going against Cowboys secondary, who's not very good. So I like that spot there. Last week he got 10 targets from Cousins, 2 touchdowns. So Jordan Reed's always been Kirk Cousins' favorite target. So when those two are healthy and clicking, that's a dynamic combination there. So I like Reed a lot as well.
Yeah, like, Reed's the only guy I would stack with
Cousins.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, you know, he's got so many other targets at receiver, running back, but Reed, you know, like, he's probably the only guy that's safe enough, like, that he's going to get, like, not only just, like, a set number of targets, but, like, goal line ones, red zone ones, like, important targets.
Washington's such a weird team because I feel like they're the only team where I would feel the safest stacking a quarterback with a running back and a tight end. No wide receivers.
Right.
Definitely.
Gady, tight ends, who do you like?
Yeah, man. Honestly, at the moment, I'm worried about Patio Joe. Marwin Gonzalez leadoff bomb in the 9th to tie it off of Jansen.
Oh, wow.
Don't slit your wrist, Joe.
It's not over. It's just
it's
tied,
not over. It's tied.
It's tied.
Throw that out there. What are we talking about? What do we got?
Tight ends, baby. Tight ends.
Yeah, like outside of Hunter Henry, that's just ridiculously underpriced in my opinion on FanDuel. I had Jordan Reed as my next guy. You got to have to pay for him a little bit here, but the Cowboys are really bad against the tight end. He finally got it going last week with 2 touchdowns. But, I mean, I feel bad for the guy because he's always hurt. He's hurt. He's always on the injury report. He gets hurt like every other play, but then he's still out on the field. So I got to give him a lot of credit because he was hurt a lot the other night, and he gets 2 touchdowns. So, weather permitting, obviously, if it's not a rainstorm, I like him a lot because it's going to be a shootout. Another guy that I did, just an under-the-radar guy, was Witten on the other side of the ball. The Redskins' defense is pretty good, but for whatever reason, they really suck against a tight end. So, again, thinking it's going to be a shootout game. They might struggle getting the ball. Dak might struggle getting it downfield, so he's going to dump it off a lot to Witten. But in terms of FanDuel, if you're going to pay $5,400 for Witten, you just pay $5,500 for Hunter Henry. So, yeah, he's probably the guy, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think for me, like the guys that I'm having a hard time getting away from Gronk. Of course, I'm biased because I have interest in that game with Rivers and Gordon and all those guys. But I know he's expensive. But with the way the pricing structure is, at least on DraftKings, they did a pretty good job of not allowing you to get too cheap of a quarterback. So I think people are going to have to make decisions, and I think paying up a tight end is one that many on DraftKings just won't be able to do, especially after he just busted last week against Atlanta. I think Cooks was the one that ended up having a pretty big day. If I was going to go the cheaper route, I think I might be interested in hopping back on Nick O'Leary at 3-1 on DraftKings. I think that Tyrod likes his tight ends, and so I think he's going to keep throwing O'Leary the ball. I don't think O'Leary's done anything to make Tyrod not trust him, and I think the Raiders they're also pretty bad DVOA against tight ends. So that's probably the guy that I got in my head. Paulie D, want to take us home with some defenses?
Whoa, yeah. I didn't even do any D's. I forgot about these, but I know I like the Eagles.
Don't forget about the D.
Yep, don't forget about the D.
Cash never forgets about the D. He'll tell you about it.
That's what she said.
There it is. Thank you.
There we go. I like the Eagles. I like the Eagles a lot, especially in the rain. We'll see some fumbles. We'll see just sacks. Rookie quarterback, not a good spot. Tough D. I like the Bengals against the Colts. I like the Mixon Bengals D pairing. I like the Buffalo D against the Raiders at home. I don't think anyone will have that. And they've been really impressive all year long. Not my favorite. It's a riskier spot because I think the Oakland offense is solid. I think they're a solid team overall. And then on the cheaper end, I think the Redskins against Dallas in the rain, it's just there's a chance for a fumble or something like that for 4,200. Redskins, they're pretty secure. They've gotten, at least 3 sacks in all the last 4 games. 4 sacks in 2 of them, 3 in 2 of them. So, you have a decent floor there. And then with the added rain, for that price, I think that'd be interesting as well. Those would be my top 3.
Okay. Cam, defenses.
Yeah, obviously the Eagles are a really good spot. They're 5.4, though, on FanDuel. So sometimes that's a little hard to fit in a expensive defense. But definitely they're good. Just kind of going down the list, I haven't looked too much into defenses yet. I usually just kind of look at quarterbacks against their QBR in a bad pocket. And last week, I think Trevor Siemian graded 30th against 30th QBR versus like a bad pocket or something like that. And I knew San Diego had a pretty good pass rush, so I picked them, and they were super cheap. So that's usually like my process for defenses. So I'll have to get into that later. But first glance, I like Eagles. I like Panthers. I think Cam Newton's turnover prone. I don't know about his shoulder quite yet and everything. So I'll have to look into that. But I think that could be a decent spot. I don't know. I think it's like I'm struggling at defense this week. It's kind of difficult for me. I'll definitely be talking to Polly throughout the week and seeing what like weather issues we got going on, because I will definitely just target a defense in a really bad weather environment and hope for something crazy to go on.
Mm-hmm. Katie, defenses.
Yeah, I think we can probably all agree on Philly. Probably the top choice, but I mean, how many of us are going to be able to afford them? If you're playing Monday, I like the Chiefs a lot. Denver can't score, even though the Chiefs suck. The Vikings, I think, are going to be a popular pick against Cleveland. Of course, the Vikings popular pick last week, and I think they scored 6 points. They don't create enough turnovers. They don't ever take anything to the house. They're a good defense, but they're not a great fantasy defense. I think they'll be popular just because of the matchup. Probably the one that I like the most right now is a little bit cheaper, is the Bengals against Indy. I was looking at sack rates. The Colts give up the most sacks in the league, 11.6% dropbacks. Cincinnati's not great. They got a 7.9% sack rate, but when you average those two out, they have the best sack rate on this slate. So I'm looking at that. Obviously, Indy's struggling on offense anyways. I do like that, but I'm kind of with you on that, Cam, where you say you're struggling on defenses. Usually I can lock into somebody like 4,600, 4,500 on FanDuel and just be locked into that, and I just don't really see that right now. So I think it's going to be all over the place. That what everybody wants is at the top, and you're not going to be able to afford them. So a lot of research to do left on that.
Yeah, I think it's like Cam said. I think it's a great slate to take advantage of defenses in bad weather. With that said, if the weather's terrible, if the weather's really that bad, I think we can look at the Jets game and the Falcons game for a couple cheaper defenses. I think if we like the Eagles defense because of the weather, then maybe we can even take a look, dare I say, at the San Francisco defense. We've seen bad defenses put up massive points. We saw the Saints do it. As bad as the Saints were, they gave up so many points in that game, and it didn't matter because they scored so many damn points. So this is a week where I think you're right. The pricing is pretty tough, and it's hard to pay up for a defense and GPPs if you really want that maximum upside. Unless you want to throw a bunch of darts, then and play the roulette wheel at cheap running backs and see which one hits for you. But yeah, man, I think it's a week where in tournaments you kind of want to figure out just attack these games that Paulie had mentioned with bad weather and just monitor it. But it sounds like some pretty nasty storms, man. And I tell you what, Atlanta, I'm not sold on Atlanta's offense. I think that there's something wrong for sure. I tell you what, why don't we do this thing, Paulie, that I know that you had an idea for the show. Why don't we get everybody give like their top fade of the week? It's early. Okay. It's early, right? Paulie,
you guys aren't gonna like my quarterback one.
Uh-oh. This is going to be good.
It's Carson Wentz.
Carson Wentz. Boom.
Whether I think the run game's going to get involved. If you look back, there was 2 games where they went heavy run and abandoned the pass. So the coach is willing to do that. Weather's going to help. Game script is going to help. All it takes is 1 or 2 running or defensive touchdowns, and it's a bust. So Carson Wentz is my biggest bust this week.
Okay. Cam, who would be your biggest fade as of right now?
100% Matt Ryan at 8.1K on FanDuel. There's no way I'm paying 8.1K for Matt Ryan. There's so many other guys below him that I would gladly spend the money. I just don't like their offense and the way they look this year. I don't know. I just can't pull the trigger on them anymore. They're dead to me after this week.
Fair enough. Gady, who's your fade of the week?
I got a couple that I like, but I'll stick with the weather issue here and say Dak Prescott at 8-6 on FanDuel.
I like that call.
Obviously, you love him, and people are going to play him. But if the weather's going to be like that, he ain't gonna reach value at 8-6.
Yep.
Yeah, I definitely like that call. I was gonna go with Ryan, but I'm gonna try to find somebody else because I think Matt Ryan was also somebody I was leading up to. So, man, I guess the first. You know what? I'll go with Julio Jones. That's what I'll do. Go with Julio. I think Julio's price on FanDuel is pretty low, and he actually finally did have a good game last week. So I wouldn't be surprised to see people take him just because they can afford him against the Jets. But I still wasn't impressed with, like, I don't know. They just don't look in sync. Like, it just doesn't look right. Something doesn't look right. And if the weather is going to be bad, then I could see this being a bad situation for a guy like Julio Jones and Matt Ryan playing on the grass, right? Yeah, man, this was cool. This format was a little more organized, I thought, and it was cool to hear everybody's takes and kind of see where everybody's going and see what we all agree and disagree on. It sounds like Melvin Gordon. It sounds like a lot of us like for the most part, and then some. Obviously, Paulie is his biggest fade is Wentz. Both of you guys were talking about how you like Wentz a little bit, so I thought there was some definitely some good takes here, man. I'm excited to dig in, and I'm excited for the Y stream. Cam, your article is coming out this weekend. It's going to be FanDuel GPPs. And of course, Gady, your article's out with the whole narrative street. It's a great read for the beginning of the week. Like, to get me hyped for football after Sunday, like I would say, like especially if you tilt early on Monday and the article comes out Tuesday or Wednesday, and you read the narratives and you're like, oh yeah, like it's like, you know what I mean? It gets you all hyped. So,
if anybody has any ideas on that, shoot them to me.
Yeah, put them out, man. Let's spit it out, man. Reps the nation.
Write about anything. So
that's it. Of course, you'll catch me and Paulie D on Saturday for the NFL Wise stream. Once we get all the news and notes, as Mr. Levitan says, for Lock. Other than that, guys, this was fun, man. I appreciate all you guys making the time once again on this Wednesday night. And I know that right now a lot of attention is on basketball, so I think this could be an interesting time to make some money in the NFL. Look out for overlays. I got a weird feeling. Look out for overlays because I'm hearing that the NFL, a lot of people just couldn't handle it at this point, and a lot of people stopped. So just keep an eye out for some of those larger tournaments and see how much they fill. And I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to say something in closing. Paulie, in closing, anything from you?
Catch us on Saturday. We'll see what changes, what we're still on, and definitely keep an eye on the weather. It's going to make a big impact. One of the smallest slates of the year on DraftKings. I think it's 8 games. We got a 9:30 London. We got a Monday night. We got a Thursday night. We got teams on the bye. So very, very small slate. So, I think triple stacks are definitely in play. You pick the one spot that goes off more than anything else, and that could get you all the money. So that's where I'm at the beginning of the week.
I like it. Cam, anything in closing?
Don't get drunk at the bar and play your whole bankroll.
That is great. That's valuable information right there, bro.
Great advice.
Yes,
great advice.
That's solid advice. Forget about DFS. That's life advice, man. That's phenomenal.
Stuff, man.
That's phenomenal stuff, Cam. I'm proud of you, bud. Gady, anything in closing?
How can I follow that?
I'm sorry, man. I know.
Seriously. No. What I was going to say is the Thursday night game is garbage. The two worst offenses in the NFL.
Oh, dude. Matty Moore saving the Dolphins. Jay Cutler saved the Dolphins season, bro.
Yes, it might have, but I'm just saying.
He's in trouble.
For DFS purposes, play the full slate. Play a lot of Thursday stuff, man.
Yeah, and fade it. Great call.
Because amateur people think that you have to play somebody, and they'll stack that game. Even in cash games, people will stack that game, and they're going to lose, and it's easy money for you on Sunday. So play the Thursday slate this week.
And like as CK said, if there's overlay, like in the main, there's going to be more in the Thursday, the Saturday, Thursday, Sunday, and less competition. So definitely play the Thursday slate and fade it for sure.
There we go. All right, guys, so that's going to do it for us here Don't forget, we're going to have an NBA pod later tonight. It's not going to be live, but we'll have it for you guys by the morning. It'll be myself, Cash, and possibly Paulie D. Depends on how his night goes, see how he's feeling. But we will be doing the NBA show just because we know how everybody loves the NBA right now and DFS. So other than that, guys, head over to wisestake.com if you want more fire DFS content. We got articles, we have projections, all the tools you need. We have live streams before lock to try to prepare you before each slate. Of course, we got the chat to stay connected with you at all times. You don't have to sweat alone, guys. You don't have to. You can come sweat it out with us, with the nation. Anyways, for Paulie, for Cam, for myself, for Paulie, for Cam, for Gady, and myself, as always, there you go, one of the same. Me and Gady are the same. That's it, one of the same. As always, good luck, guys.
Baby.